Have you ever wondered how the world's wealth is actually divided up? I mean, not just a guess, but the real hard numbers. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to map out the entire architecture of global wealth. And spoiler alert, it's got a very, very steep peak.
Okay, so to get our bearings, let's start with a big number. Our planet is home to roughly 8.27 billion people. That's a lot of us, right? But here's the thing. When we talk about wealth, we're not talking about everyone. The real story is about the adult population, the ones who actually hold the assets.
So with that in mind, let's go ahead and slice up that global wealth pie. We're going to break down the entire adult population of the world into 4 main groups, all based on how much personal wealth they have. And the picture this paints, well, let's just say it's pretty eye-opening.
Okay, wow, this one chart really tells you almost everything you need to know. Just look at this. On one side, you've got this tiny little sliver, 1.6% of adults holding nearly half of all the wealth in the world. And on the other side, over 40% of the entire population holds, well, less than 1%. It's a pretty stark reality, and we're about to dive into what this really means. All right, to really get a handle on this, we've got to look at each of these 4 tiers up close. We're going to unpack what these percentages actually mean for real people and their slice of the pie. Okay, so let's start at the bottom of the pyramid. This is the low wealth group, and we're talking about adults who have less than $10,000 in personal wealth. And this right here just perfectly shows the core of the issue. This group makes up a staggering 40.7% of all adults. We're talking more than 1.5 billion people, but their combined share of all the wealth on the planet, it's just 0.6%. I mean, it's a massive, massive population with just a tiny fraction of the assets. All right, let's move up one rung on the ladder. Next up is the lower middle wealth group. Here, we're looking at adults who have between $10,000 and $100,000 in personal wealth. Now, this is actually the single biggest chunk of the population at 41.3%. And get this, if you combine them with the first group we just looked at, we've now covered over 80% of all adults on the planet. Their share of the pie is a bit bigger, yeah, it's 12.1%, but that's still pretty modest when you think about it being for such a huge majority of humanity. Okay, now this is where things really start to shift. Let's look at the upper middle group. These are folks with a net worth somewhere between $100,000 and $1 million. And this slide right here is absolutely crucial because for the first time, the share of wealth is way bigger than the share of the population. I mean, look, this group is just 16.4% of adults, but they control a massive 39.2% of global wealth. You can really start to see that concentration of wealth taking hold right here. And that, of course, brings us to the very, very top of the pyramid, the high wealth group. We're talking about the world's millionaires and beyond. Anyone with over $1 million in assets. The numbers here are, well, they're just staggering. We are talking about such a tiny group, just 1.6% of all adults. That's about 60 million people. And yet, this tiny fraction of humanity holds almost half of all personal wealth on the entire planet. The whole pyramid has completely flipped. But wait, the story doesn't even stop there. Because even inside that top 1.6%, the wealth isn't spread out evenly. Not at all. To really see what's going on, we have to zoom in even more, like all the way to the absolute peak. So what exactly does it look like at the very, very top of this whole structure? I mean, who are the people up there and what kind of wealth do they actually control? Well, the answer is a number that's almost hard to wrap your head around. 0.001%. Think about that. That's just 1/100,000th of the entire adult population. And to put that in perspective for you, we're talking about fewer than 60,000 people. In a world of over 8 billion, you could fit that entire group inside one large sports stadium. And here is the most powerful stat of all. This tiny, tiny group, this 0.001%, controls 3 times more wealth than the entire bottom half of humanity combined. Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. You know, this extreme concentration is maybe best seen in the growing number of billionaires. Right now, there are over 3,000 people in that club, and each one is basically a symbol of this incredible accumulation of wealth at the very, very top.
Okay, I know we've just thrown a whole lot of numbers at you, so let's take a step back and look at a simple summary, just to make sure the big picture is crystal clear.
So this table pretty much sums it all up, right? You've got the low wealth group, tons of people, very little wealth. Then the lower middle, the biggest group with a pretty small slice. Then you hit the upper middle, a smaller group, but they're holding a really significant share. And of course, the high wealth group at the top, a tiny, tiny fraction of people holding almost half of everything. It's a pyramid, all right? And it is an incredibly steep one. So when you see all the data laid out just like this, the real question becomes, so what? What does this all mean? What does this architecture of wealth with this incredible concentration right at the very top mean for our global society, for our shared future? And that's really the big question to think about.